is a good re-upload in case you didn't hear it.
You know, I know you appreciated it, and I know that you appreciate the effort that I used to put in. And then I just stopped because I had you, and you're my girlfriend, and we lived together, and the more further we got through our relationship, the less effort I put in. I didn't listen to you. You were right. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. I was impossible to work with. I didn't make it easy. I constantly thought inwards about myself and not about you and what was going on. I didn't make any attempts to change. I didn't make any attempts to fix my life. I made excuses.
So at this point, we all know that this apology isn't really for Alice, right? This apology is for him. He wants closure. Has anybody watched BoJack Horseman? And there's that scene when BoJack is apologizing to Herb, and he's just not having it. He's saying, I don't forgive you. You're not getting closure. You don't get that. You have to live with the shitty thing you've done for the rest of your life. I know this is a serious subject, but this is honestly what it reminds me of. It's a pretty powerful message, and one that I think definitely applies to this. I know when it comes to YouTubers or public figures, whenever a scandal happens, an apology is almost always expected. When it comes to situations that happen in people's personal relationships, though, especially a situation like this, even though Alex is a public figure, this was an intimate relationship that he had with an individual who he has affected severely. Sometimes there are things that an apology cannot fix. This, unfortunately, seems like one of them. She has even said this in the messages that she's exchanged between Alex. If you were genuinely remorseful, which I personally don't believe you are at this current point in time from everything we have seen publicly so far, but if you were, you would respect the fact that she wants nothing to do with you and you would leave her alone. You would not try to contact her. You would not try to improve yourself just for the expectation that one day she'll come back to you. You have to leave her be and let her move on with her life and cease communication with you. That's what needs to be done in this situation if you genuinely are sorry, because that's what Alice wants. She doesn't want you constantly contacting her. She's afraid of you. Also, I'm not trying to speak for her. She's literally stated this in the messages that we have been going over this entire video. She stated this herself. If you were sorry, you would respect her boundaries instead of constantly sending her messages over and over and over again and sending her 30-minute long voice notes.
And for the first week that you weren't here, I just spent the entire week doing nothing. And after that week, I realized just kind of like how fucked up my life was, and I have made attempts to try and fix it. I have a schedule.
I don't know why I start streaming now. I'm probably gonna stream for like a minute.
You know, I'm like a functioning person. I go out for my bike ride. I've been sorting out my doctor's appointment, even though it's bloody hard in the middle of nowhere.
I don't know why I find this absolutely absurd that he's listing off the most mundane things as if it's such a hard day's worth of work. And before anybody says it, I completely understand that there are certain situations that can make a person feel completely paralyzed, for lack of a better term, or in other words, unable to do everyday tasks. And that can range from things like mental illness to having something traumatic happen to just having a roadblock or being burnt out even can make you feel like that. It's completely understandable. But the thing here is that there have been multiple statements throughout this entire Google document of her saying that he's not helping her with things. She talks about him not helping her clean the kitchen and freaking out when she gives him a task or two to do when he asks her what he can do to help. Later on, when he's trying to contact her again, he tries to impress her by saying, I've taken out the bins to try and get her to come back over because he cleaned the whole house up, as if that were the problem. And now he's listing all this stuff up like, see, I changed. I'm doing all of these responsible things while still making it sound like they are such a burden to him. In other words, to sum up my thoughts on this comes across as extremely guilt-trippy and manipulative, in my opinion, with everything we currently know about the situation that has been released publicly. This seems like, oh my gosh, I'm trying so hard to do everything I can to get you back. When again, she doesn't want that, bro. If you're actually sorry, you'll respect her boundaries and leave her alone like she asked you to. It really is as simple as not picking up the phone and trying to contact her. The last clip that I'm taking from this call, again, if you want to listen to the full thing, I'll link a re-upload in the description below, is him crying towards the end of this 25-minute voice memo and him discussing his regrets regarding the way that he treated Alice and their cat Bear. You didn't get to the cat part. That's at the very end of this document. But I think it's important to remember this part of the call for the end of that document.
And when we got Bear, or you got Bear, sorry, still doing it, you know, just how happy I was for you. I thought it would help you heal. But I was right there just making stuff worse. I made them, you know, even their relationship with the cat, like, I was upsetting you. And because I was being selfish and being like, why didn't you, no, I was like, why doesn't she want to share the cat with me? And it's because of the way that I was acting. And I knew that, by the way. It's not that I didn't figure that out. I knew that back then. I was like, of course she's going to put the cat away from me. I think, why would she want a cat with me? Doesn't want the cat to be attached to me because she probably wants to leave. And I felt that at the time, and instead of doing anything about it, I just moped and sulked like a child.
Again, very important to keep this in mind towards the end of this video when we go over the last bits of this document, because the way he reacts to her not being comfortable with him being around their cat contrasts so much with what he just said here. I also understand that crying isn't really acceptable, nor is saying I love you. I should have left that out. It takes away from what's important, which is how I treated you. I didn't want to not reach out and apologize though. I didn't take responsibility for how I treated you, and I felt that wasn't right. I'm sorry for however I took everything. Hey, can we talk about this? Did you hear everything? I'm so sorry, Alice. Shall I stop, or are you writing? Talk about what? There's nothing to talk about. There's a lot. No, there isn't. I said my piece. You said yours. What happens now? What do you think? I don't know. I wanted to try and make it right by you. I made a lot of excuses. I didn't realize how one-sided I was being. What do you mean by this? Replying to what do you think? Is there no way I can work through this with you? Does that not make everything more understandable or different? I feel so conflicted about a lot of stuff. I'm sorry that I didn't apologize properly before. He said something else, but it was cut off. I'm too close. Why? Because I ruined it. I really was blind to so much. I relied on crutches and I became what you wanted to avoid. And you did give me chances and I wanted more from you. I wanted you to not just come back, but tell me everything was a big misunderstanding. I actually have PTSD from you. Yeah, I know how my actions have affected you. That's the thing. I know that you can't call me because of me. If I look at you, talk about you, think about you, my heart pounds out of my chest. I'm sorry for swamping you here. Yeah, it's the same for me. Is it though? I'm gonna say no, it's not, because he's probably taking that as, oh, my heart is pounding like butterflies, when no, she's explaining symptoms of PTSD, but obviously for different reasons. Yeah, he was totally meaning like, oh, my heart pounds when I think about you because I got the butterflies and I'm really just, I want to love bomb you so you come back into me and I can continue controlling you. She says, I don't think you can compare this. Yeah, sorry. A little bit more was cut off. And every day I argued with you, I pushed it back because I was so desperate for this to be easy. I didn't want to work for it because I believed if you love someone, it would just be that simple. But you did love me and I was making it impossible for you. And I have. I still am now. I can't go back and change it. He responds to, my heart pounds out of my chest too. I wish I could fix it. I wanted to put it right. I was so flawed about how I was doing it. A little more is cut off and it's killing me inside. He sent some more voice notes and then he says, I told you I loved you, and then I would get so angry. Other stuff that is pointless now. I was scoring points in my head. I was frustrated when we called because I was faking it, and I thought for couples to fix something, they would just first pretend it was fine, then talk about it later. We should never have played, is what I think it says. He sent more voice notes and some clips, and then more text state, I wasn't. I was hurting you, insulting you, and then blaming you. I was terrible, and then I blamed it on my own issues. I am so sorry. I convinced myself we'd both fix each other, but I was just